Hi, today we have Sarah coming into the office to talk about site design, but really about how to enhance her site's content and feel. And my goal is to make sure that she doesn't end up with design by committee.
Hi Lee, thanks for seeing me today. I've come to see you because I have my website, my business website, and I really want to enhance the look and feel. And I've been hearing all sorts of terms and jargon, and I don't know what they are. So first of all, I've been hearing about content strategy. What is that?
Okay, well, content strategy is about understanding what your audience needs are. First of all, you need to work out who your audience is. Then you need to understand what it is that they're trying to achieve with your website. And once you've figured that out, you should also be looking at what is your competition doing, because there will be some things they're doing that you're not doing that you can learn from, and that's low-hanging fruit and quite easy to steal with your eyes and steal with your ears.
Yeah, okay. And then in terms of information architecture, is it something I need?
Yeah, so information architecture refers to two things. It refers to the technology that you're using, and in this case I'll be using WordPress.
Okay.
And typically what you also look at is how you organize the content, how you craft your content for your user base as well. And a good information architecture would be where yourself as the owner of the website are able to manage the site, keep it updated, but also easily work with the content. And not have to cost yourself a lot of money in terms of having a developer look after it for you, because the publishing costs can be expensive if you're not careful. All right, so you've assessed your audience, you've understood what they wanted, hopefully you've understood what your competitors are doing, but have you looked at how your audience is assessing you? There's a number of things that your audience will look at. Obviously Google being number one. Are you ranking on Google? Do you have pages indexed that people can find? Certainly an important point. You also want to, well, they would certainly want to know if you know what you're talking about. So they're going to look at who you link to, what information you link to. In other words, are you able to prove that you're a subject matter expert, or are you somebody just blogging for the sake of it? It's a way for them to work out whether or not they should listen to you. Another important point as well is, are you a transparent author? Are you somebody known in the industry for what you're talking about, or is it a guest blog that somebody else has written, or is it a ghost writing? Can they actually trust the authorship at the end of it as well? That's also an important point. Another important point, specifically for a business website, can you be contacted? I mean, if I'm going to buy something from you, specifically if it's going to be delivered through an online purchase, I want to know that I can reach out and phone you and check my order. If I can't find contact details, very unlikely I'd make a transaction take place. So you want to make sure you have email, telephone, and contact details, and even a map for if people have to collect goods from your business. Another thing as well is your site visually appealing? If it looks like it's from 1995, it probably is an old site, probably not being used anymore. Users, because it's subjective, can very quickly tell whether a site is up to date or not. That does indicate to them very quickly whether they should be moving on or whether they should look any further, and that's certainly an important point. Another important point that's recently surfaced is site security. Google literally in the last week or so published a post regarding if your site is secure, then that's a positive indicator for what they call an authority website. If you're prepared to go to the cost of securing your site, it certainly tells Google that you're a business and not.
How would you do that?
So what you'd do is you'd look to buy what they call an SSL certificate. What that means is information between yourself and your computer and the website back and forth, so your credit card details or any information that you pass to the site is encrypted. That means your communication is secured. And if I bothered to do that as the owner of the website, that means I value your information and I value you as a client. And comparing that to somebody who hasn't gone to that extent, it's just a small little vote in the favor of the site owner as a result of doing that. And it's clearly going to become a factor in the future. And a good example of that as well is if you have an extension to your site as a Facebook fan page. If you want to embed content in Facebook, you have to secure the content as well. So this is a natural extension of securing sites socially, moving back towards the site itself. And then the sort of last point as well is how frequently do you post content? How frequently do you update your site? And what is the quality, going back to the earlier point of authority? If you put content up, it is obviously not accurate. It's a very clear signal that you shouldn't be trusted. However, if people are linking back to you, which is obviously the inverse of you linking out, that's a very strong indicator to Google that your content can be trusted, and therefore your audience will also trust your site a lot more as well.
Okay. Lee, how will my users identify what's good content?
Okay, well, user-friendly I think is a key word. If you're talking to somebody and you have a PhD, but the person you're trying to talk to has a matric, you're going to go completely over their heads if you talk in tertiary education language. You certainly want to make the content easy to understand, and don't make it difficult to get to. So don't throw pop-ups at them when they're halfway through reading a page. Don't make it overly paginated, because you're very likely to see drop-off if the article is long and 4 pages long. If you're not engaging them by page 2, they're not going to go to page 4. So that's another reason not to make the pages difficult to understand. Headings are an important factor in content because people scan when they read, especially on the internet. So they'll scan the page up and down looking for headings that lead them to the information they're looking for. If the headings are clear and guide them towards content, then they'll dig deeper into the content. If there are no headings and it's just paragraph after paragraph after paragraph, what happens? People get bored, they can't really see what the information is that they're looking for, they'll move on to the next site at that point. Less is more, so once again, people scan before they read. If you can say something in 10 words that you think you can say in 50 words, 10 is going to be better. But sometimes you need to be explicit about what you're saying. You can imagine a legal website doesn't have the luxury of talking in Twitter speak. But if you can get to the point quicker, the better as well. And certainly the KISS principle plays a role. So where you can avoid jargon, do. It comes down to something called readability. And certainly if your audience is a tertiary education audience, you can use more jargon and more anagrams, I guess. But typically, once again, KISS is the keep it simple, stupid principle is what will keep your audience on your site. And I think the last point then is tone. And as I've alluded to earlier as well, if you're talking to people who've just left school, their language is very different to their parents and even more different to their grandparents. So if you're engaging a young audience, you certainly want to understand how they speak, or at least try and speak in a language that they won't find talking down to them perhaps. But conversely, if you're talking to PhDs, you can't, yo buddy, how's it mate, you can't talk in a slang language because to them that's not their language either. So going back to understanding your audience, you need to be sure of who you're talking to and try and speak in the language they understand.
Lee, what guidelines should I follow when I'm trying to enhance my site?
Okay, well, there definitely are going to be industry trends in every industry as you go for. And if you're a subject matter expert, if it's what you do, you're going to understand what the trends are. Certainly follow them or set them for what it's worth, but it's how your audience is going to know that you're contemporary and how they're going to know that you're a leader in your space. If there's an industry trend towards websites being on mobile and you're not there at all, then you're not following the trend, and it's a clear indicator that you might not be the guy they want to talk to. So on a website where you're scanning, you're going to remember a lot less. So the more it sticks in your head because it's a story rather than just text, the more likely is that person will remember it. Another good trick as well is getting your content published off-site. Certainly you can publish your content to social channels, but you can also get your articles published on other sites as guest blog posts. But the more you can get your content to draw traffic back to you from other sites, that's going to be a good guideline for getting people to come to your site as well. And I'm leading into what's called repurposing. So content that's posted on your site can also be changed and used on Facebook. You can imagine the tone would be more friendly, more social, less formal. And certainly if you're going to tweet about something, it'll be even shorter and to the point. And what's also a handy tactic is to be as verbose as you can on your site where you need to, and less where you're on social. Because if the person's scanning through a timeline and seeing your post, they're going through it much faster than on your site and even much faster than on Twitter. So you can imagine you want to be thinking of what is the hook at every level. And sometimes your hook is visual. Sometimes you're posting pictures on Pinterest, there's no text, it's just a picture. But often the picture, if it's a powerful picture, can work as well. So it could be a picture that leads a person to a Facebook post that leads them back to the site. So use your imagination in that space as well.
Cool. Well, thanks for seeing me today, Lee.
Cool,
I think that helps to clear up a lot. So
you're welcome. Right, so we've spoken with Sarah about site design, enhancing sight and feel, and also trying to avoid design by committee. In the end, though, you're building your site for your audience, not for yourself and not for your client. And if you can keep that in mind, you'll find that you'll complete your project in a much shorter time frame with a lot less irritation. Good luck, and we'll talk about it in the forum some more.